I think, Edward, that the country can definitely afford decent pay rises for public sector workers, and I think it's important that they do. We've got 133,000 vacancies in our NHS at the moment, a staffing crisis, and you're not going to help that staffing crisis by holding down the pay or, in fact, imposing a real terms pay cut on nurses and paramedics. So I think politics is all about choices, and I think the government's got some clear choices in front of it. But yeah, absolutely, I think the country could afford a decent pay rise for public sector workers.
Double digit?
Well, I think that would be absolutely legitimate and right. We've had 10 years now of wage stagnation in the public sector. In real terms, a nurse is £4,000 a year worse off than they would have been if their wages would have rose in line with inflation since 2008. So we've got to solve this crisis, and pay's got to be part of the solution, and decent pay rises, not just this year, but into the future, got to be part of it.
When you look at the state of the public finances, though, can a double-digit rise be justified from that point of view? I completely get the inflation argument. I mean, but it sort of harks back to my first political memories in the 1970s when you had inflation chased by pay rises, chased by inflation, and it was a never-ending circle.
Well, that isn't the case at the moment. There is no evidence whatsoever, and Rishi Sunak, when he was Chancellor, got up in front of the House of Commons and said there was no evidence at all that it was wages that was driving inflation in this country. I would ask, can we afford this crisis in our NHS? Can we afford the crisis in our schools? And pay has got to be part of the solution. And, you know, at the TUC, we've set out what the government could do. It could choose to tax wealth in the same way it taxes incomes. It could choose to impose heavier taxes on the oil and gas giants. It's chosen not to. They are political choices. And ultimately, I want to see those nurses, those paramedics who I was on the picket line with today and who are literally at their wits' end, not knowing whether or not they can pay their bills, I want to see them get a decent pay rise.